Hey, what's up, everybody? Video 44 coming at you with another video. All right, so Wembanyama has been given his jersey and had their press conference, I believe. I haven't seen any clips from it as of yet, but I did see a clip from him holding the jersey up, and looks like he's very excited about being a Spur. Um, my question to myself as I go brainstorm is, do I think he's going to be an all-star in his rookie season? And a lot of that has to do with what the Spurs want to do. Because if they want to win now, they'll bring him some win now talent, and then the likelihood that he'll lead that team to a you know high heights is pretty solid. He's going to have to learn how to deal with the physicality of the NBA. He's going to also have to learn how to deal with people flopping off of him and stuff like that. That just comes with being a pro. Uh, Veterans are going to rope him into situations that are going to confuse him early on. He's going to learn. Guys like Zion and Paolo are going to body him. They're going to put a lot of pressure on him, and they're going to expose the fact that he's not quite as strong as he's going to be as his body fills out. But at the end of the day, the man's 7'5", so he's going to get easy deflections, easy blocks. All of these different things should be rather easy for him to get. Um, and in my mind, I just look at him as a player who's likely going to be able to have high efficiency as well, because he hits shots like a guard. He's like some type of 7'5" jump shooting prototype, some T Mac type thing or something. So, you know, that's what I see there. It's like a 7'5" T Mac. So he's automatically going to, just by default, hit shots that are too high to contest. So if he doesn't have a shooting slump to start his career, and doesn't find himself in foul trouble, which is really going to be the thing for Wemby, um, then I don't see any reason why he can't, do good things. Now I'm wondering how well he's going to rebound in the NBA in his first year. A lot of that has to do with strength and effort. I'm wondering how durable he's going to be, because he has had his injury concerns. So I'm not necessarily expecting him to play more than 60 games this season. So it's one of those situations where I say, if I'm a betting man, I'm going to say no. I'm going to say no because I think there's going to be a learning curve for him in regards to some of the dog days of the season that are going to ultimately going to be determined about conditioning and how used to the schedule you are. A lot of this stuff doesn't have anything to do with being on the court. It's just being in hotel rooms. A 7'5" guy, he's got to get used to being in new cities, deal with all the nonsense. So it's a lot. Being the number one overall guy, following in the footsteps of Tim Duncan, it's going to be some learning curves. Popovich probably going to mess with his minutes a little bit because that's his Popovich. It's going to be hard on that kid too. Better know it. And so I just think they're going to take their time with Wemby, and a lot of that's going to be determined on how much he wants to really do in his first year. Honestly, because he has a lot of leverage in the situation. If he says he wants to have a full load right out the gate, he'll be one of the highest usage players in the league. But if they're smart and they're still serious about developing their team for real, then they're going to let those guys come along slowly. They got Sohan to develop as well. Got a bunch of young players. All of them are really talented. So I don't know if they're going to add anything to their situation. I don't know if they want to tweak some things to become a little more talented around Wembanyama. But I think the Spurs are going to probably have a season where they look to probably win about 30, 35 games. And if that's the case, they may dock him that way. If he doesn't find himself on a winning team, I can see them giving all-star looks to guys who are on winning teams. Now, the hype factor may shoe him in automatically. For all I know, he wins the fan vote, which would not shock me at all. That ain't gonna shock me. So, by that metric, yeah, he's probably a shoe in. But that a lot of that is going to be determined by how quickly people take to the name, and if they are aware of him right away or not. But I think as soon as people start getting a look at this kid, yeah, they're going to start shooing him into All-Star games just by the fan vote. Easy, easy, every year, easy. Just like Giannis, just like Jokic. But for now, if it just depends. If I'm to assume he's not getting the fan vote, which is what we'll argue here, then I think he can ultimately make the All-Star team just by way of how easy it is for him to garner stats and how difficult it is to actually defend his jump shot. If he's hitting every night, who's stopping that? I mean, Bol can contest it. Evan Mobley, Anthony Davis may be able to contest it to a degree, but even them, not really, dude. Not really. So it's one of those situations where you're at his mercy, and if they force feed him the ball over and over again, he's capable of running 7 and 8 threes. I've seen it with my own eyes. He's not somebody that's just going to kind of slow down or take his foot off the gas. He's a very intentional basketball player. It ain't just his body that's gotten him, picked number one overall. This dude has a lot of skills and intangibles. He understands the game. He's been taught the game, and he's intelligent. And that's what's going to end up pissing people off. It's like, not only is this guy big, but he's also a thinker. So it's just like Shaq all over again, just in a very different way, or Jokic as we're seeing right now. My question is Wemby, we're going to find out what type of chess player he is on a basketball court. Because at the end of the day, if you can't outthink a guy like LeBron or Jokic, some of these guys who are really cerebral, making others better, then you're going to have some disadvantages just in general if you don't make others better. So I don't know how his playmaking is, how unselfish he is, or what have you, but he's gonna have to be a guy that can pass out of double teams well and is a willing passer, or his upside will get capped off to some degree. He's just gonna get out chess played, so to speak, out there in certain situations. People are gonna adjust his height and his length, even though he's ridiculously long. Professionals will adjust, and I think they'll probably adjust pretty quickly. But he's going to get his share of blocks. He's going to lead the league in blocks in a lot of situations if he can play enough games. Steals, deflections, all of that. My concern is, with guys like him, finger injuries. Believe it or not, when you have ridiculously long fingers, early on, these kids be getting swiped. The ball hits it funny. It ricochets off of them. It takes some time sometimes for guys like him to really get used to that type of speed that comes at them in the NBA in that way. And so that's what I would be wondering about. We saw Rondo go through that. We've seen AD have hand injuries at times, things like that. I just wonder if he has weak bones, strong bones. That's what I'm wondering about. If he has pretty strong bones, and that really makes me feel good about him. But if he's going to be one of those hollow bone people who break every single time something hit him, then that's going to really cap off his upside as well. So, I think a lot of people are concerned about his legs and his feet, but I don't think that's going to be a problem for this guy. He's a next level guy, and I've mentioned this a couple times in talking about him, but I just don't see that being a situation based on how he's built, honestly. Now, some of these guys, especially some of the guys that we've seen from yesteryear, they will be built in a different way, not need and different types of things that ultimately cause them trouble because they're just not proportioned for the sport. But I think he's like the next evolution of that, so to speak. And now that we've had so many players that have come around with that ability at his height, we're just being, God is basically making people more proportionate for the sport itself. And I think that's what you're seeing, to be honest with you. Just the human evolution and people that are actually being built more so for what it is that it's going to be asked of them in the everyday life. And so that's what he is. I think he's a next level human, basically, and we're probably not going to see as many foot injuries or leg injuries or knee injuries as you would have seen other guys who were his height, because he's not built like them. He's built right for what it is he's going to be doing. Now, that doesn't mean he's going to be exempt from having those issues just the same. You know what I mean? They can very well happen, but as far as him just naturally being the case, I have my doubts. I legitimately have my doubts. I'm pretty optimistic that he's going to be just fine, just like a 6'6" dude. If you're worried about Michael Jordan, that's about as much as as far as his legs and stuff like that. Same concern as far as I can tell. He's not built like that, and so we'll see. We'll see if that translates that way. But Wembanyama is a very, very different player. And if for some reason he's able to do unprecedented things that we've never seen before, I would only be partially surprised. Only partially. Because when you look at what the game of basketball is about, and you look at his skill set, and we talk about the combination of being able to shoot the ball from far away and being able to get to the highest point, it's almost like you have to take or give or take, when you're going after those things. But with a guy like Wembanyama and his ability to just be so long and tall, he gives you the sweet medium of being able to have both of those things on the floor at once. He's always going to be able to shoot the ball like a real shooter against a Golden State team. He's always going to be able to shoot. and he's going to always be able to block shots and do all these different things against teams like Orlando and Cleveland, who he's going to need to be able to do that against. So I really like this player. Obviously, everybody really likes this player, but I'm just trying to express that this player is very, very capable of being an all-star out the gate, or even an MVP out the gate, if he takes well to the schedule and doesn't have issues ultimately with some of these vets. They're going to flop off of him and get him out of these games early. Rolled ankles and stuff like that. We got to understand it's still a young guy. He's going to have to grow into his body. I know that. I know y'all didn't want to hear that for those who are saying, but he's 7'5", but if I'm not mistaken, he's only 19 years old. So I legitimately think he's still growing. I think Wembanyama probably get to 7'7", possibly. I'm not kidding at all, because if he is 19 and his body hasn't fully filled out, it just hasn't. By the time he's 23, we'll see he'll probably be taller than that. And given the fact that he's already 7'5", why wouldn't he jump that type of jump is what I'm saying. I'm not sure we don't see that kid get a lot taller. And since, when people first started talking about Wembanyama, he was 7'2" about a year ago. So, yeah, for those who think we're done here, I don't have any reason to believe that at all. So, yeah, Wembanyama is different. He's a video game. He's going to be everybody's favorite player in the video game. It's not fair building somebody like that. And that's why he's, a cheat code. So for those who are saying, oh, he's going to be a bust, that's not really what that's not what it's going to translate when you see him play. You can say that until you see what he does. Then you're going to understand, oh, okay. Well, the only way he busts is if he just doesn't play well. Just like any other basketball player. If he just can't hit shots, if he just finds himself despondent, messes up all types of defensive plays. If he just plays stupid, then he just plays stupid. But naturally, he should be able to get statistics very easily on the basketball floor. Very easily. Blocks, steals, free throw shooting is good. 3-point shooting, good. Even though his percentage actually isn't that great. But you're going to want to put him in situations that allow him to shoot the ball just the same. He'll grow into a better shooter, obviously. Anybody who's seen him knows that. So it's just, the kid is special, man. He is exactly as good as advertised. We're all going to see that very soon. San Antonio's probably going to be $10 billion richer by the time this is over with. And if he stays healthy, I imagine he's going to gross about $1 billion in this league. And I'm not exaggerating, maybe more. Over the course of his career, he should. Because there ain't no max contract that he shouldn't be offered. And he may get him a no-trade clause, to be honest with you, depending on how the health looks over the first couple of years. He can definitely demand that. I'm telling y'all now. So, yeah. That's why I think they should get rid of the no-trade clause in general. I mean, I hate to take guys' leverage away, but I don't think it helps anybody, really. It's bad. It's bad. When a player has that much leverage on what type of trades are made, that can affect the market in some dangerous ways. I'm just being honest. No disrespect to the players, but it's just an understanding of the market. That's not good for anybody. So that's what I saw there with Bradley Beal, and I think it's something they need to do away with for the overall health of the league. Just being real, man. People don't really know what they need in certain situations and how much it costs to get certain things and what can happen if they bring in certain contracts. You just have to know what you're looking at, and you're not going to know what you're looking at unless you're looking at it. So, yeah, I need to play with this guy. No, you don't. No, you don't. Not when you talk about what it's going to cost to get him and how much that's going to affect who you're playing with in the future. No. So that type of thing is why you don't want that. And because of it, GMs know that. And they're going to throw some funny trades out there because they know the player is going to be the one being able to do so. So that's corruptible in a lot of different ways. Don't want no trade clause. Just being honest. So, yeah, that's what I see there. Hope we learn that from the Bradley Beal situation. Players affect things just by demanding out. So if they have carte blanche over what type of trades are made, oh man, that's something you don't want to see happen too often. Just being honest, man. I know there's gonna be people like, what? But it's about understanding the market itself. If you understand the nuances of that damn market, you will be like, I get it. I get it. Trust me on that. We talk about it enough on this channel. But it's a leverage game, man. If people know what you have, they can toy with the value of the cost of what it is that you have. So that's the logic behind it, more or less. And anyway, I'm looking around at the NBA, super excited now that we have an opportunity to look at these rosters and kind of have a layout of what it is we expect to see all season long. Well, that's not true, but at least we'll know what the teams may look like to start the season because these drafted players are now in place. Some of the undrafted guys are starting to get their contracts as well, and it is the best time. I haven't taken a look at the Phoenix Suns, but I think the only way for them going forward is to go in the undrafted pool and grab a bunch of guys that didn't get drafted yesterday and bring them to their team. Bring them to their team. I don't know if they have a G League affiliate yet, but they need to get them one. Get them one now. Expand them a G League affiliate, or if they do already have one, they have to really look into investing into it heavily. Because I'm telling you, the Phoenix situation looks terrible to me. But if they just apply what it is I'm saying, apply what it is that Indy's doing in certain situations, apply what it is that Washington's doing, trying to get second rounders in different situations, just do what the Lakers are doing and find the core of people who you trust to draft well, man, and then just use your second round picks to bring you all the role players that are going to complement the core that you're keeping, and then you will be fine within 2 years' time. Now, the first year. Well, this is the second year. The second year of this situation with KD and Booker, now they have Bradley Beal, is still a situation where they're starting from scratch because they don't have those other players that make them good. You know what I mean? That's the problem they had last year. And I was thinking, well, year 2, they're going to be fine because they're going to go get those players. But you went and got them another star without having those players in place. So it's like, no, that doesn't work. But now that we're here, okay, the Bradley Beal contract is what it is. Got to try to bring yourself something because you certainly can't trade everything else now for anything else because of that contract, as we always say, that no trade clause. That's one of them situations. So, what do? You take those second rounders, as we always say, and you use them to fill out the rest of your team, and hopefully they turn into something, or undrafted guys, of course. But if you can find some second rounders, trade for them. Point is, get guys in that range, bring them to you, give them real roles, and let them become who it is you need everybody else to become in these situations where you're buying out guys and buying, getting guys out of the buyout market rather and all that type of stuff. And that's not going to help you. What's going to help you is the young talent. So that's what I want to see Phoenix do, I hope. James Jones is thinking that way. Matt Ishbia, hopefully he's learning what he needs to learn so that he doesn't further damage his franchise with his decisions. And then from there, I think Phoenix is going to find they can really do something with the core that they've just put together. They can do it. You just got to get yourself those guys that basically we just put on our team. The Lakers just got all of the talent that I would have wanted Phoenix to have if I were a Phoenix GM or a scout. That, like everybody the Lakers took, that's what you need. Stuff like that. Guys that we believe are going to pop because they're a little too old to be drafted. Fine. If you don't want to draft these guys, perfect. They can really, really play. They can really, really help right now. This is who you go get, Phoenix. This is exactly how you do it. And you bring yourself as many of them dudes as possible. And if they can't really play, then you swap them out for new ones. And you keep looking for what is best for your team. And likely more of them dudes are going to be hungry as hell, just like the Miami Heat role players. And they're going to outplay those roles because of that hunger. That's all they really need to do. And then from there, you got the efficiency of 3 of the best to take over. They don't need nothing else. They just need those guys to play really, really well so they can sit down. Just a breather. Because they all want 39 minutes or more. They just need that second unit to come in and be really good. And you can't find that with what you have, in theory. Because trades are made every day. But in theory, this is what you need to do to find those guys. And this is how you find them dirt cheap. So I want to see Phoenix take that model from me. Put that in place. Because at the end of the day, if they do not, you're leaning too much on Devin Booker, Kevin Durant, and of course Bradley Beal to play defense, rebound, and all these other things that you really honestly don't want to ask these guys to do at this stage of their careers. Relying upon each other to do these things, that's going to create problems. I'm just telling you. KD is an older guy now. He ain't going to have a whole lot of patience for guys yelling at him for missing a defensive assignment when he was the only rim protection on the floor. These are things you cannot let happen when you start the season. You got it whole off season to address this. And as I've said before, Phoenix, some of them dudes you got really do hold value. I don't see any reason why I can't shop Damian Lee and a future second rounder for some type of center of some sort, some type of Batazde or something. That's all you really can do for yourself. You got to get somebody really cheap who can really play. I'm looking at, I would not do this if I was Orlando, but I found that in listening to content somewhere else, Wendell Carter has one of the best contracts in the league. I think he's making like $15 million a year, playing almost all-star basketball. Now, I don't know how much of that has contributed to the fact that he has such fantastic co-stars that are pretty much very big as well, so they can help him with all the things that he does. Everybody on that team is over 6'8" as of yesterday. So, yeah, I think if I'm Phoenix, maybe I'm trying to unload Ayton's contract, not necessarily to Orlando, because maybe they would not be pleased with you for doing that, but trying to see if you can pry loose Wendell Carter's contract in some way, shape, or form while allowing them to get the bulk of the value that Ayton's supposed to be worth. If I have to overpay for Wendell Carter's contract, if I'm Phoenix, I'll do it for the flexibility. I will do it for the flexibility. And for the fact that this is a very, very talented player that's probably going to play better than Ayton any damn way. Now, if I'm Orlando, again, you're going to have to make that make sense. You're going to have to get a third and a fourth team involved. And you're going to have to make it so that one of them has to take each other's garbage. And one of them gets picks from me. And the other one gets a big player or something. It's going to have to be some very elaborate stuff that can be done. That can be done. If you put it out there, you want something like this to get done, you can possibly get it done. Possibly. You know, everybody has to agree. But the point is, that's the type of discount player that Phoenix needs to find on their roster. Even if they have to double pay for something like that, they probably should, because you need to replace Ayton's horrible contract with something that is going to be retradeable, that should likely increase in value, and that is exactly the type of player that is, on exactly the type of contract that is. That's what I'm saying to you. So, I know if I'm Wendell Carter, with that being said, I need that extension from Orlando. I need that. I don't want to pay on a $15 million contract. What the hell are we talking about? Pay the man. What are we doing? Pay Wendell Carter. But for the time being, Phoenix, you need to try to get that contract out of there before they do that. And maybe they don't want to do that because they have other people to pay. Anthony Black, Paolo Banchero, Jed Howard. Man, that team is good. Bol. That team is good. Somebody needs to get Chuma Okeke out of there if he still has a role on that team. I know he can contribute. A couple years in, a role player, but I just don't see a role for him in Orlando anymore, and he's falling further and further down the depth chart in ways that really don't reflect what I think he can actually do. So, it's one of those things where I don't know where he stands in the NBA, if he's on that team anymore. I mean, I don't know, but I think that's one of those situations where I paid attention to him, and like Mo Bamba, his real worth has not been realized in that place. You just ain't seen it. So that's something I know. I don't know if injuries have taken over, who knows, but I know they've put about 4 or 5 power forwards in front of him. But when they first traded away Vucevic, they were leaning on him, and he was fairly effective scoring the ball. So I haven't forgotten about that. It ain't been that long, about 3 years. Yeah. So these are the type of things I just pay attention to and move on. Big body, power forward. When you talk about people you want to throw at teams that happen to be big, there's one leaning over there in Orlando that nobody's thinking about. So, yeah, man, these are the type of things I'm thinking about. I want us to find talent. Well, not us. The Lakers are doing great. We pretty much have a set roster. But, like, if I'm Phoenix, for example, anybody needs to find talent if you don't have your situation in place that you're proud of, so to speak. If you don't have a good crop of young players, by all means, get some. Literally do that for yourself. The team would be so much happier. Now, Minnesota, same thing. You're in the Rudy Gobert hole. That's definitely your way out of it. Yeah, G League affiliates, developing talent, drafting well. Boom, you look up. Just by default, your team not going to be able to get as much talent. You're probably going to find yourself with good picks. So that's why you need to have a good scouting department. That's another thing. It's like these guys are looking for. They get frustrated because their teams can't keep these superstars. But what they don't realize is this is also the key to keeping the team good enough to keep those superstars in these small markets. You don't develop in player development and you do things the wrong way, trying to scramble around so that stars will come around. What you don't realize is that if you develop properly, especially if you are developing all of your role players properly, your stars are going to develop better. And then from there, you're going to be more than likely to keep those stars. That's literally how that goes. And I don't know why I've seen so many teams mess this up so many times. Teams like Cleveland ain't developing in nothing at all, and they want to bring all these players to them and expect them to want to stay there. It's like, yo, they're not going to want to do that until you make it make sense. I like the Emoni Bates pickup, but you need to be buying more second rounders, and you need to be in this this market for those undrafted players. Cleveland, you know, this is how teams stay bad, man. Got to develop. Got to get your G League affiliates going and get some of these youngsters. And so these are things I'm looking at. Because at the end of the day, a lot of these teams walk around like they're contenders when they don't have a legitimate bench. And I'm sorry, but that's the only way it's going to work. You got to get that. And the only way you're going to have that continuously or valuable players from which you can trade to keep those is the player development. That's how you do it. So as I say this every day, for those who are sick of me saying it, I'm sick of saying it too. I just want to start seeing teams do it. You know? And look, I'm a Laker fan. I'm very happy my team is on that level. I've been preaching to my team directly on this for 3 years. So where we at, I feel like is the best way forward for us. We're doing great. But, you know, at the end of the day, there's a whole field full of teams that need to be bringing in talent that they're supposed to be teaching how to be pros. And sometimes these guys' careers get off to bad starts, and it's because they don't have the right teammates, they don't have the right coaching. The coach is frustrated because the team ain't no good. Team ain't no good because they ain't developed no players. So we talk about it till the cows come home until they get it. And given the fact that we're just coming off the draft, when is it more appropriate to have this conversation? So yeah, speaking of the draft, I expect more trades to come. I don't think we're done seeing some of those guys move to different places, because I think you're going to start seeing some teams start to look at some of what they have and realize that they're not better for it in regards to these tax aprons after some of the free agents are signed that are going to be signed very soon. So you're going to see more movement, and some of those movements are going to require teams to move young players, or some of these teams just simply have too many young players. They're going to have to start moving them. So a team like the Rockets, you can't keep all these kids. You know damn well you got way too many lottery picks on that team. Lottery picks in the third round, like in the third string of your team. Nah, you got to move on for some of them dudes, and you know it. So these are the type of things we're thinking about. Orlando, same thing. How many of them guards you keeping? How many guards you keeping? You know what I'm saying? I'm curious to see where Fred VanVleet's going to end up. Just to segue into something else, and I know I only got 8 minutes left to talk, but Fred VanVleet is a player in this situation I'm looking at and say if he takes the right bag, he could turn a team like Washington into something that looks remotely respectable, and in time could have a really solid trade piece with him being that trade piece as they start to bring in more pick equity. I wonder if a guy like Fred or a guy like D'Angelo Russell will ultimately just go to the Tankathon Wizards and take whatever bag they have, knowing that they're probably going to get traded anyway somewhere within the first year and a half. Does that make sense to me? You got to literally anticipate being traded when you sign these contracts, especially with certain teams that you know are in a rebuild situation. They're going to definitely move you when they draft the first overall point guard guy. So, yeah, unless you mellow ball, they definitely taking that guy. And since they suck, you definitely going to have that pick next to you. So this is one of those situations where it's like, I wonder if he'll take that bag. I wonder if anybody will take that bag, because it is a bag. It's a big one, too, for a point guard. Because if I'm not mistaken, Washington took Koulibaly with their pick. And so that leaves them open for a point guard. Straight up. So I don't know how they're going to play that. But I know they got a lot of picks on this team. Some of them could be moved around for them to be a little better if they don't want to. I don't know how. I probably wouldn't. But they got some of these guys in the back of the second round that I just don't know if they're going to even have roles for on a bad team. You know, Tristan Vucevic, is he even coming over? Probably not. Trace Jackson Davis, I think that's a pretty good player there. I've heard good things about him. Getting him at 57 is probably a big steal. But like, I don't know. Tamani Kamara, I think he's going to be there, either there or Phoenix. I think he's going there though. But like, you know, can they really make something happen with the guys that they got on the back of this draft? Because I don't know if they don't just pair a couple of them up, try to get a little bit of a better young player. You know, being Washington as they are, I like they got Patrick Baldwin. I love that they got Jordan Poole for them, even though the contract's bad. He's going to play better for them than he did anywhere else. Well, Golden State, since being paid. So that's what I think in regards to Jordan Poole with that team. He's going to be better there. Tyus Jones is a good point guard. So it's like, you know, they got the makings of something pretty solid. Denny Avdija is a player they're still excited about. I like Corey Kispert, one of the better shooters in the Eastern Conference. Developing pretty well, slowly but surely. He's going to get better and better. So, you know, Washington got some stuff now that they've done what they've done here. They just could have got a lot more. And we all know it. They could have got a lot more. They should have just negotiated a little tougher, I think, at the end of the day, with all of their, just about everything they did, except for the Bradley Beal contract, for which they didn't have any leverage. But, yeah. The Porzingis trade, I think they should have gotten at least a little more pick equity or something, a little more. And, of course, that Chris Paul trade is just, I don't know what that was, honestly. I don't know what that was. You bring it back to the Jordan Poole contract, you bring it back. Well, they did add some stuff to that, didn't they? They added something to that because they did add Patrick Baldwin to that, for which we just said. So, okay, all right. Add some more to it, I'll be satisfied is basically what I'm saying. But nevertheless, Wizards are in a good position. And now it's time to see if they really want to do something or if they're going to stay bad. Like bad. And I'm telling you, next draft ain't really the draft. This is why I thought they should probably pair some things up and get something else other than Koulibaly. Because Koulibaly's a nice player, but one of the things they say about Koulibaly is he can kind of get lost in the flow of the game. Just jogging around like Troy Brown, as we always talk about. You know what I mean? And it's like, if you want to put a player like that as the number one guy you're building around, you got to expect that he's probably going to end up being a number 4 or number 5 when you're done drafting. So, wouldn't it have been better to try to trade up to get a player with more oomph to him? I don't know. I just think that Koulibaly is more so about the prospect of what his metrics are and the fact that he played with you-know-who rather than about what he's actually shown himself to be. And so it's like, if you love the body, so to speak, maybe it makes sense to reach for him, but not if you're starting completely over, in my humble opinion. Now, he could outplay that, make me look stupid. I'm happy if he does that, but, you know, he just looks like a guy, flow of the game kind of guy. And I'm not starting my rebuild with a flow of the game kind of guy. You know what I'm saying? So that's what I'm looking at. That's how I see that. Just not the way I would have went. Not the way I would have went. Not necessarily the greatest fit because he's not the greatest shooter. And you got Avdija, not really the greatest shooter. I don't know if you're moving on from Daniel Gafford. I like him. But, you know, you can move on there, I'd imagine. So it's just a lot of holes there. You know, they're going to have to draft themselves a center next year. Or they didn't want Ayton, so never mind. I mean, they could have got Ayton. They took Chris Paul. I don't blame them for that. I agree with that. So there's a lot of different things you're looking at there with the Washington Wizards, and you just wonder if they are in the mix to get a center somewhere, somehow. Maybe they'd be willing to take one of those picks or a couple of those picks and send it to a team that would be willing to move on from somebody. Yeah, that's interesting. That's interesting. I wonder if they're in the mix for a guy like Claxton, since it was a rumor that he would be moving on from the Nets, and the Nets now drafted Clowney, who likely is going to turn into Claxton. So that's really interesting to me. That's interesting. Also, Charlotte got too many damn guards, man. I hate that they did what they did. I love the players that they brought in. Bailey and Smith are great. They're going to be fantastic if they free up some space for these dudes. But if they don't free up any space for them, they're just a bunch of guards in a overly guarded lineup that doesn't have Scoot Henderson in it. Melo, I'm going to say this, bro. if you don't like what you see there over the next couple years, get the hell out of there. Don't give them too many years of your career if they're going to do things that you don't agree with. Now, if you agree with what they're doing, cool. But I'm looking at them, and I don't know where this new owner is going to take it. You know, they got J. Cole in place. You know, I'm a fan of Cole, but I don't know where they're taking it. Drafting all these damn guards, man. When they got Book Knight on there, and they got a bunch of other people, including yourself, but didn't want to take Scoot Henderson. That there is like, I don't know, man. I don't know. If I'm Melo, I'm kind of looking at like, y'all sure y'all didn't want to take the best player available for real? I don't know if I'm even in favor of that. I'm not gonna lie. I know Miller's his guy, but I don't know. Maybe I'm just looking at this wrong. Maybe they did the right thing for their franchise. We'll see if it plays out properly. But like I said, if Melo don't like what he see, he should get the hell out of there. BDO 44. I think you off watching.